Good morning, everybody, and thank you all for tuning in on this Thursday, July 30th, coming to you live from our studio in Seoul. I'm Shin Se-min. Before we get started, these are the stories we're following at the top of the hour. A strong second quarter earnings report for world-renowned tech giant Samsung Electronics on the back of robust chip demand. Will these pretty numbers persist in the quarters to come? The Pentagon says it's removing 1/3 or nearly 12,000 American troops from Germany. Now, the move comes as President Trump has blasted Berlin for not paying enough for its own defense. Blockbuster hearing in Washington. Congress grills the CEOs of Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google over concerns about their competitive tactics in the online marketplace. Our starting point this morning, a massive water bomb of monsoon rain has slammed the central and southern parts of South Korea, flooding many homes, roads, and farms. The central city of Daejeon is among the hardest hit, with some express trains there having been delayed due to flooded tracks. More rain is expected throughout the day, with those places under heavy rain alerts. Chungcheong-do Province, Jeollado Province, and Gyeongsang-buk-do Province receiving up to 50 millimeters of rain an hour. Capital of Seoul and other regions could see up to 80 millimeters of rainfall today. The Korea Meteorological Administration forecasts on and off heavy showers until early August. And if the forecast is indeed correct, it'll be one of the longest monsoon seasons ever recorded in South Korea. In other news, the Pentagon is proceeding with President Trump's plans to remove thousands of American troops out of Germany as part of the president's disapproval at Germany's failure to spend more on its defense. The Pentagon said it is strategically repositioning U.S. forces in Europe to better counter threats from Russia and China. Our Lee Seung-jae explains.
On Wednesday, the U.S. military unveiled its plan to withdraw about 12,000 American troops from Germany in the latest development in President Trump's long-simmering clash with Berlin.
The current EUCOM plan will reposition approximately 11,900 military personnel from Germany, from roughly 36,000 down to 24,000, in a manner that will strengthen NATO, enhance the deterrence of Russia, and meet the other principles I set forth.
The U.S. Defense Secretary added that of them, nearly 5,600 service members will be repositioned within NATO countries, while the rest will return to the United States, though many of them will begin conducting rotational deployments back to Europe. Before leaving to Texas on Wednesday, President Trump explained Washington's reason to withdraw troops from Germany.
We don't want to be the suckers anymore. The United States has been taken advantage of for 25 years, both on trade and on the military. We're protecting Germany, so we're reducing the force because they're not paying their bills. It's very simple. They're delinquent.
Esper noted that only a relatively small number of advanced units would be moved in the beginning, considering it would take years to fully implement the withdrawal process, in part given the potentially billions of dollars in additional cost. The move is also set to irk not just Germany, but China and Russia, as the Pentagon noted that the latest move was part of its plan to strategically reposition U.S. forces in Europe to better counter threats from Beijing and Moscow. The current plan leaves about 25,000 troops in Germany, but it's unclear if the plan would remain intact if Trump is not re-elected in November. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The U.S. is replacing its chief negotiator for defense cost talks with South Korea. The previous senior advisor for Security Negotiations and Agreement, Jim DeHart, has taken up a new role as the U.S. coordinator for the Arctic region. Now, DeHart had led the negotiations over the defense cost-sharing agreement with South Korea since last September. And DeHart's replacement has not been officially announced yet, but the State Department said it is focusing on reaching a mutually acceptable agreement with South Korea. In the previous round of talks back in March, the two countries had tentatively agreed on a 13% increase, but that was rejected by President Trump, who is still looking for a much larger increase in South Korea's contribution. Exactly 26 days after being appointed by President Moon Jae-in, South Korea's new unification minister and head of the State Intelligence Agency on Wednesday embarked upon their new positions. Our Kim Hyo-sun with the details.
President Moon Jae-in's new national security team, reshuffled amid renewed tensions with North Korea, began official work on Wednesday. Earlier in the day, Moon presented letters of appointment to Unification Minister Lee In-young and Park Ji-won, who has been newly appointed to lead the National Intelligence Service. President Moon expressed confidence in them, saying Lee and Park will definitely carry out the historic tasks given to them. To this, Lee said he will exert his utmost efforts to establish peace on the Korean peninsula before Moon finishes his term. Park said he will make sure to revive the spirit of dialogue between the two Koreas and revamp the organization. Im Jong-seok, former presidential chief of staff who has been newly named as a special advisor for diplomatic and security affairs, also began his new work on facilitating inter-Korean cooperation.
We can only make decisions on our own on issues when there are more areas the two Koreas can do on their own and trust is rebuilt.
Pundits expect inter-Korean exchanges on humanitarian issues could be agreed soon if necessary conditions are met, as Minister Lee has also stressed the importance of negotiations with Pyongyang. The North Korean regime, however, has yet to respond to the suggestions made by Seoul on inter-Korean cooperation projects. While all eyes are on when the South Korean government will engage in full-fledged dialogue with the North, it's left to be seen how the latest return of a defector back to North Korea and the COVID-19 situation in the North will affect the inter-Korean relations going forward. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
And Seoul's Unification Ministry is believed to be holding a video conference this morning with the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in North Korea. The ministry says the meeting, which comes at the request of Thomas Ahea Quintana, is scheduled to commence at 9:30 a.m. Korea time, which is half an hour ago from now, and will be attended by the director of the ministry's Human Rights Bureau. The meeting is believed to be discussing human rights conditions in the regime, as well as Seoul's probe into the latest activist groups sending anti-Pyongyang leaflets across the border. Samsung Electronics earnings for the second quarter of 2020 amounted to around $6.8 billion, and that was largely helped by steady demand for the company's memory chips despite the COVID-19 pandemic. The South Korea's tech firm said that while its sales were down by some 5.6% on year, its operating profits were up by 23.5%. Samsung says this was largely driven by the improved profitability of memory chips and displays, as well as increased demand for household appliances. And for the latter half of the year, Samsung says it expects demand to rebound on products like smartphones, but the company admits that the pandemic remains a constant uncertainty. U.S. lawmakers questioned the heads of the world's 4 biggest tech companies in a congressional hearing in Washington on Wednesday. Now, they pressed the IT big shots about their use of data and behavior towards their competitors. Our Kim Jae-hee reports.
The heads of the world's 4 tech giants, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google, appeared together in a video conference on Wednesday to testify before the U.S. Congress. The hearing aims to determine if the tech titans have too much dominance over digital platforms or have edged out competitors in an unjust way, and to decide if new laws are required to prevent anti-competitive behavior. The 4 tech giants all claim they face healthy competition. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos faced tough accusations that the company isn't doing enough to prevent third-party sellers from being crushed by bigger businesses that sell on Amazon. Apple's Tim Cook was questioned about whether Apple has the power to exclude apps from its App Store. Cook responded that Apple wants every app it can on the platform. Facebook was criticized over its purchase of Instagram, with claims that the acquisition was to quash a competitive threat. And Google was questioned over claims of leveraging its dominant search engine to steal information from other websites and manipulating its results to attract people to its own sites. Google's CEO deflected the accusations.
we've always focused on providing users the most relevant information, and we rely on that trust for users to come back to Google every day. In fact, a vast majority of queries in Google, we don't show ads at all.
The hearing comes after President Trump tweeted on Wednesday that if Congress doesn't take action against the big tech companies to bring fairness, he will take action himself. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
Also in the U.S., the Federal Reserve left the rates near 0%. It said the U.S. economic growth remains well below pre-pandemic levels, but noted some pickup in economic recovery. Our Kim Da-mi with more.
In a widely expected move, the Federal Reserve kept its benchmark interest rates steady at a target of 0% to 0.25%. Following a two-day policy meeting that ended Wednesday, the Federal Open Market Committee pointed out that economic activity has picked up somewhat in recent months.
In recent months, economic activity picked up as the economy began to reopen. Many businesses opened their doors, factories restarted production, and more people left their homes to engage in various activities. As a result, household spending looks to have recovered about half of its earlier decline.
Powell highlighted further that the economic path will depend significantly on the course of the coronavirus. He vowed to use a full range of tools to support the U.S. economy in such a challenging environment. The committee, however, did not further indicate what it would take to change rates. The interest rate has remained the same since March in the early days of the pandemic. The Fed slashed its benchmark interest rate to 0% to 0.25% from the previous 1 to 1.25% on March 15. Along with holding the rates near rock bottom, the central bank will also extend its lending and credit initiatives until at least the end of the year. Kim Da-mi, Arirang News.
South Korea and the United States are extending their $60 billion bilateral currency swap deal by another 6 months as they look to ease lingering market uncertainties in the era of COVID-19. Now, with the new agreement, the deal initially set to finish at the end of September has now been extended until the end of March of 2021. The Bank of Korea said Thursday that despite both the U.S. dollar and Korea's foreign exchange markets showing signs of stabilizing, the virus is still a major concern. The deal marks the second of its kind to be signed with the U.S. after the Korean $1 swap line was sealed in October of 2008 at the height of the global financial crisis.
Good morning. Heavy rain is pounding down on central parts of the country, falling at 30 to 45 millimeters an hour. Well, it's been sprinkling over other regions, including here in Seoul, so the rain doesn't seem to be much of a problem, but regions with heavy rain alerts are having some rough Thursday morning. So heavy rain warning is in place for Daejeon, Sejong, and many parts of Chungcheongdo and Jeollabuk-do provinces, while an advisory is in place for those surrounding regions. Jeju, though, where the monsoon season is over, remains under a heat wave advisory. So those of you in central western regions will see heavy showers of more than 200 millimeters. Seoul and other regions will see 30 to 80 millimeters of rainfall. Afternoon highs will be a tad warmer than yesterday, hitting 29 degrees Celsius here in the capital and over in Chuncheon, while it's going to be a scorching one for Jeju at 33 degrees with some sunshine. Now, the monsoon season actually comes to an end in the south today. Then steamy heat sets in, while central regions will see monsoon showers into early August. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for news around the world.
And that's our time for the hour on Arirang News, but we'll be back with more of today's headlines coming up at noon Korea time, so do stay close. Thanks for watching and goodbye.